Streaming live through the internet airwaves on your phone, tablet, or computer on Facebook Live and YouTube. It's time for the Dallas Prospect. Every legend was once a prospect. Here are your hosts, Law Nation, Silver and Blue Nation's Big Game James, and Darreck Diamond Dallas Prospect.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. What's up, guys? I know we in the flex. We in the mix. DDP, what's up? What it do, baby?
Man, I am good, dude. I'm ready to get this thing going, man.
Yes, indeed, man. Hey, it's one of those things where we got to get this thing going. I know you guys about to go to bed, but hey, wake up. You're talking to the nation now, baby. We got a lot of things to talk about. But first and foremost, shout out to producer G that's in the house too as well. He got this thing looking all wet and nice and neat. Man, I cannot believe how everything is just going into the mix for us right now. And also shout out to Big Game James, my brother from another mother. He's not with us right now, but that's okay because we finna still rock and roll, lock and load. What's up, DDP?
Man, we got some big news to cover today, man. It's been a while since we've done our last show. I mean, because this news broke literally 2 days after our show, it feels like we're real behind on this. And I know we both posted some stuff along the way, but it's not really covered until we have a show to talk about it, right?
No, yeah, oh yeah. So we got it. Hey, we know we got to talk about Dez. I do know that I've been talking about Dez for a minute, but I want you to go ahead and just put out what your thoughts, your mind, what you're thinking about on this Dez talk.
Man, so when it first came down Friday, I was a little bit bummed out just in like the attachment sense because, you know, we're talking about a guy that he's the franchise leader in touchdown catches with 73. He's in the top 5 basically of every other major receiving category. We're talking about a guy that was here 8 years, and he's going to be a guy one day that's up in the Ring of Honor. It just seems like that's going to be the case. But we're also kind of looking at a guy that I think it wasn't always the smoothest tenure here. There is, I think, some question, and this is probably going to be something that incites a little bit of anger. There's some question kind of the legacy he left in Dallas, and I view that as, you know, his comments and everything in the departure and how he's kind of continued to immaturely handle things. I do think it's kind of drawn into question a little bit. If the public opinion was in his court completely, I feel like he swung a lot of it back Dallas's way just by kind of being petulant. And in that interview with NFL Network this past weekend. What do you think?
Kids are out there. If you ever have a job or getting to another job or you've been released from a job, you do not, and I'm talking about regardless of the scenario, you do not dog the company that you used to work for to your new employee or out there to the public. I blame 100% to Rock Nation. I believe they did a horrible job. Their PR staff, they're not getting I haven't yet to hear them make any statement. And I just think that Rock Nation as a, I guess, quote unquote, marketing franchise, sport, whatever sport and entertainment organization that they are, I think that they should move away from that state to recognizing or speaking on behalf of rap artists or singing artists. But I don't think they should recommend anybody. The NFL should just pull them out because they dropped the ball with this. You know, there's no way in life Dez Bryant should went into that meeting alone or spoken with Mike Fisher or with Jane Slater and all those guys. I think that Rock Nation should have came in and said, hey, this is my client. At this point, he did a remarkable job with the Cowboys organization. He's the number one wide receiving touchdown, have 73
touchdown reception.
Touchdown reception. So I think that Rock Nation dropped the ball, and I think that if I'm a guy that's coming into this draft and finna be drafted, I really think that the Rock Nation should. I think this should be like a cause to pause. I think they should just stay far, far away from Rock Nation, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a really head-scratching move, and so Saturday's video, I posted a video where I was kind of bummed out, I guess, a little bit to it, but like I kept it real in terms of the practical sense of it, but it was one of those things where I did kind of give it a little bit of time to kind of just process, like, this is a significant departure. It does kind of feel like the closing of an era. This is the last of the 2014 triplets gone.
Right.
And then that, I think it was that same day or it was the next day, he did the NFL Network interview you're alluding to. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're only hurting yourself, right? Like all these teams that could possibly be interested in you, the fact that you're not willing to shoulder any responsibility, the fact that you're sniping at captains and all of that, like it's not going to win people to your side. You're not going to have NFL teams who hear that and say, "Oh, well, it sounds like Dez really got a raw deal. I'm going to go give him the same money Dallas didn't like, or the money Dallas basically took away from him in the sense of cutting him." They're not doing that. They're looking at it and they see a petulant diva wide receiver. I'm sorry, but that's what they look at. Why did T.O. eventually not get a job anymore in the NFL? His last season, he produced 870 yards. That didn't have anything to do with production. It came down to what the distraction he posed, right? The fact that he was a diva receiver. And in some sense, Dez has kind of shown that. Now, Dez is a fiery competitor, and we love his sideline passion and everything, but at times it is a distraction to the offense. And I think the Cowboys reached a point where they just no longer were willing to deal with that. And as you said, his PR people, good God, that is horrible. There's no reason he should have done. Even the Mike Fisher interview surprised me, just in the sense I was like, wow, you're going to let him immediately talk to somebody. Like, that's surprising. But then the NFL Network one, I was like, dude, that should never happen. You should have had a chance to get a hold of him before then.
Should have had a chance to take a deep breath and say, hey, you know what? This is a difficult time for me right now. My resume speaks for itself. And just go do workout videos and show pictures and posts of highlights of what he did in the past. I think that alone would have had all 31 other teams saying, you know what? I'm going to get this guy. I want to put him inside the Browns need him. There's just a lot of teams that's out there could use him right now. And I'm really thinking that the Rock Nation just really dropped the ball. If I'm a young guy coming out of the draft, don't sign with Rock Nation. They horrible. They is worthless as it relates to like sports entertainment. They good if you want to drop some rap CDs, you want to drop some bars, you can sign up with them. But as far as anything else, man, hey, miss me with that. I think that's when the troubled waters came anyhow. When he signed with that organization, they had lost a little touch with him. Now, as far as a marketing piece, maybe, but outside of that, he should never sign with anybody like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't make sense in that regard. And, then you have other comments of his where he was talking about he wanted to stay within the division because he basically promised Jerry they would see him twice a year. Man, I said this in a different video. The best, I'm paraphrasing. I don't think this is the exact phrase, but it's like the best revenge is living well. If you're Dez, you know how you get the best of Dallas. It's not coming to Dallas once a year and playing them at your place once a year and putting up 2 touchdowns and 150 yards. Even if you could do that, that's great. But that's not living well. Living well is going the DeMarcus Ware route where you literally go to a different team. Hell, Ware went to a different conference and he got a Super Bowl title. And really, you could almost argue if Von Miller hadn't been the Super Bowl MVP, you could have made a very good argument for DeMarcus Ware that year. And we heard the reports after that Jerry was kind of lamenting their decision at that point because he saw at that point Ware had a lot left in the tank. That's your best revenge. It's you go win a title and you have something to rub their face in that they make them say, man, I could have had that on my team. That's how you do it if you're Dez. Don't be petty and just stay within the division. Okay, great. Sign with Washington or New York. Maybe beat us once or twice a year. Cool. What are you going to do in the long run? It's not the same.
Yes. You must think wise. And should be his probably last contract. He's getting long in the tooth. And I do know a lot of people passionate about Dez Bryant, and you should, rightfully so. He's been a pillar of, and I guess, pillar of community. He's doing a lot of things out there that people have yet to see. I've seen last year that he pretty much reached around in his pocket and spent like $30,000 for a barbecue. He also helped out with this community right down the street from where I stay by buying them new equipment. And he also held like small semi-training camps throughout this neighborhood that's in the Dallas community. So Dez Bryant been a lot for the Dallas area. I do know that he gets slanted on and looked on as a guy just like vicious and he got because he played with so much emotions, you see. And when you play with all those emotions, when you have all of that that built up inside of you, the media, the spotlight of the media can look at it from one side of things, and it's just sad that it's happening that way. But at the same time, I think that collectively, and I mean collectively, that the Dallas Cowboys got tired of coddling them. They got tired of doing that. They got tired of having. This is the thing I made earlier, and anybody can. I can challenge anybody. If you work in a workplace and somebody cuss you out, you say, okay, you cuss me out one time, but then the same person cuss you out again. You sitting here saying it to yourself like, okay, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna give you no more Kool-Aid. Because I remember vividly, he cussed out Rich Dalrymple, or whatever his name is, the PR
Yep.
guy for the Dallas
Yep.
Cowboys. He said, "You fix this S, Rich," and
Yep.
I'm
2015.
telling you, Rich is better than me because I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what part of life or what you're doing. You got one time to cuss me out like that to my face. And I'm telling you right now that I want to have nothing to do with you. So we see things that's on the camera, but we don't see things that goes beyond the camera. You see what I'm saying? So we know, just like we know that there's more proofing out there in the pudding, but hey, it is what it is. I think the Cowboys organization got fed up. I think that the only person wanted to keep Dez Bryant was probably Jerry Jones, and everybody was kind of like saying, okay, it's time to move on. We'll kick the
Yeah.
can down the road.
Yep. Zachary Ryan spitting some fire here in the comments here. Says Eagles already said they aren't interested in Dez, so if he stays in the division, it would have to be the Giants or Redskins. If he goes there, it would just prove the Cowboys' point. He's an overgrown child that throws temper tantrums. And I think there's something to that. I think it shows that he's at that point angry enough and he's more willing to hold on to his hate and want to show us up, guarantee he can try and show us up as opposed to trying to just go, like I said, live well, go to a contender, whether it's New Orleans, whether it's New
Mm-hmm.
England. A lot of news in these titles. Green Bay would be another one.
Yeah.
There are places he can go that he can go try and win a title now. Or hell, if you want to go somewhere that you think is an up and coming team, fine, go to San Francisco or something. There are teams that can use your services and where I think you can do well. I think Dez is still capable. Not saying 2014 capable Dez. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that Dez is still around.
Right.
I think Dez is still capable of having a better year somewhere else
Mm-hmm.
than he would have had this year in Dallas. And that's
Yeah.
why I think Dallas had to make the decision. He was getting the second highest paid receiver money in the league, next only to Mike Evans. And that's not sustainable. Dallas wasn't going to use Dez to his 2014 thing. They weren't going to run, they weren't
Mm-hmm.
going to get the ball to him enough to do that. The reason it happened in 2014 is because you had Romo still. And yes, I'm not trying to drive a wedge in that debate again between Romo and Dak. They're different quarterbacks. Live with it. You have your setup now. And even if you wanted a new quarterback, there's not time for Dez's window for that to be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But you basically have what you have in that regard. And it's a situation where when they went to try and get Sammy Watkins and they tried to give him $16 million a year to come to Dallas, they weren't looking for him to be 2014 Dez either. They're looking for him to be like 2016 Dez in the sense that he's roughly 800 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns a game because their offense is going to be run the ball into the ground with Zeke Elliott and reinforce this offensive line. That's what they're going to be.
Yes, and I made a video earlier this week. It says we must focus on the core, and that's on both sides of the ball. That's on the offense and defense. If you can control the middle of the field, you can control the game. And I think that that's the avenue that they're heading down. And just to be honest with you guys, there's no primary number one receiver that's getting paid 15 million and beyond just winning Super Bowls these days in time. The formula is out there. You got to play solid football up the middle. And hey, I do understand that defense win championships. So in this draft, we should still lean towards defense. Now, if we go with like a Will Hernandez with the 19th overall pick, that's cool because that still helped the defense out. Because think about it. We lead the league in time of possession when we running the ball, right? Most teams are out there to stop the pass. And if you can get your team to play antsy and playing against their heels, a lot of things can change. And then just to be honest to you guys all together, and just go back to the Dez Bryant comment, because I see a lot of people in the comment box talking about Dez Bryant. supporting Dez Bryant, which is naturally, rightfully so, because we are a Cowboys centered channel. The thing is with Dez Bryant, let me raise a question, and this should put everybody's thoughts on this. If Julio Jones was cut today, but before sunrise, he would be signed with another team. I guarantee you that. It won't be like, okay, I'm trying to go to this place, that place. I'm trying to figure out this and that. He will be signed before the rooster crow. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, no doubt. And we've already seen a lot of teams kind of rule themselves out. I think I saw within the division, no one has expressed interest yet, to my understanding of it. And I think even some other teams have kind of stepped out. I think I saw the last time, like the count I saw was like 10 different teams kind of taking their hat out of the mix. And whether that's just them kind of wanting to let the situation cool down and not have to deal with the added questions of Dez's, spat with Dallas right now and his talk of Garrett guys. He sniped specifically at the team captains, which he didn't list names, but he stopped just short of it, basically saying, I don't care if you wear a C on your chest, it's Garrett's guys, right? Basically insinuating that they conspired against him. And when you're talking about that, he's implying then that it's Dak, Witten, which it's interesting. Witten, of course, comes into that because, even the T.O. situation, which was similar claims, the whole Garrett guys thing, Witten was, of course, one of those. So Dak, Witten, last year we had Orlando Scandrick, obviously he's not here. DeMarcus Lawrence, Sean Lee, Dan Bailey. I think that's your 4 captains. I think you have 5 total captains, and obviously Scandrick's gone. So that's some real insinuation to make there that the captains conspired against you. I don't think that's the case. I think that whether we know it or not, to some extent, the locker room was on some level divided. I think defensive guys respond better to that kind of passion, right? Because defensive guys kind of play with that chip on their shoulder and that spunk. And usually we saw that with T.O. in Philly, right? The defensive guys in that divided locker room, it was the defensive guys that went in T.O.'s corner, and the rest of the offense went in McNabb's corner. And I think on some extent, on a smaller scale, I'm not saying that the locker room is divided. Right. I think on some level, that's why some of the guys specifically you've heard kind of come out in favor of Dez have been some of the defensive players. Dak, and for people saying Dak had some say in it, I don't think that's the case. Now, I did say if there's one organization maybe asked backwards enough that they would put like a significant power of vote in his court, it would be Dallas. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers lost his best friend on the team and his number 1 receiver, Jordy Nelson, and he's pissed about it. He's still to this day pissed about it and saying that he wants to have more say in roster decisions, personnel moves. And if Aaron Rodgers, an elite class quarterback, and a guy with a Super Bowl, future Hall of Famer most likely, if he can't get a say in his number 1 receiver, why do you assume that a second-year quarterback in Dak was able to push Dez out by himself? Like, why do you think that's the case,
Well, when you're emotional, you speak out of your mouth sideways. And this the problem with that. Real leaders of man lead, cheerleader cheer, and that's the reason why I'm not calling Dez Bryant a cheerleader. But at that point, he should have been advised to just hush and just get ready to play for the next team and be silent in this transition. He just poorly coached. And like I said before, poorly coached, poorly managed. And these things come together, you get that mix. And then we all know, if anybody who's in the chat box or anybody who's watching this show know for sure that whether you play pee-wee football or you play middle school football, basketball, high school, coaches always have their guys. Even Parcells had his guys. You guys remember Parcells guys? Bill Belichick have his guys. You see all throughout the NFL that coaches tend to pick their players, and it's just how it is. Jimmy Johnson had his guys, and just why Jimmy Johnson was fighting to get Steve Wash when he was willing to draft him and put him on the team. Although he always wanted Troy Aikman. I'm just re-jogging you guys' memory. Everybody have their type of guys who they trust more than the players that's on the team. Pretty much like an informant, somebody who can go out there and say, well, hey, this guy did an extra 20 reps, or this guy did. It's not snitching. It's just how it is, guys. And yeah, you will feel a certain type of way. One can argue and say, well, hey, how in the world is Tyrone Crawford is still on this team? When look at the production from Jason Witten, how these two guys are still on the team and you let go Dez. This is not right. This is not fair, but they're not looking at the bigger picture. These guys don't cheerlead and pom pom on the side of the sideline. And I do know that I
Yeah.
go back to the Seattle Seahawks game. We up 6-0, and I always say this: he's on the sideline and he's upset. We winning, and at the time, I played for a coach that said, "Hey, if you got all that energy on the sideline, you can put towards the field. Let the cheerleaders cheer. You just get ready for the next play." And then as soon as he get the ball, he want to play basketball. He want to double dribble with the ball. That's just not right. You know what I mean? And then somebody can argue and lament the fact that, yeah, when Dak Prescott passed the pick six, why are you not talking about that? Well, I didn't see Dak Prescott cheerleading and pom-pomming on the sideline. You see, it's all
Right.
about the next play.
Yeah.
Hey guys, let me jump in here real quick. I just want to thank everyone who's been tuning in so far tonight, whether it's on Law Nation's YouTube or Dallas Prospects YouTube or any of the Facebook pages that we're currently streaming on. If you are watching on Facebook Live, you could go over to the Dallas Prospects Facebook page, and that's where we'll be monitoring all the comments. So if you could tune in there. I just want to thank Daniel Meza, Eric Doxson, Terrence Shorts, Terry Turner, a few people, Jawan James, that have tuned in over here on our Silver and Blue Nation Facebook page. We've got Miguel Marino with a question for you guys relating to the wide receivers. He says, what wide receiver do y'all think could come in and have an immediate impact on our offense and fit our scheme? I guess, and whether that's draft or free agency, if you want to take that question. And thanks for that, Miguel. You can go over to the Dallas Prospects page and continue your comments there.
If you guys are on Facebook, if you can migrate to the Dallas Prospect feed, if you want to interact with me in the comments there, that's where I am. If you're on YouTube, go to the Law Nation channel, and you'll have Law in the comments there as well, interacting with you guys. If you want to funnel to where we are.
Yes, indeed.
Law, I'll let you lead off on that question. Receiver, whether it's draft or free agency, like a kind of fill-in replacement.
What's happening now is that I think that Jerry Jones is upset about this whole thing. Dez Bryant was his guy. And the thing is, what they're going to do is that with that 19 pick, this is my just prediction what's going to happen. With the 19 pick, they're going to go get a Will Hernandez. And with the second pick of the draft, they're going to go out and get a wide receiver, maybe a Cortland Sutton. They brought him in for extra good look. They want to take a very good look at him, so they can know for sure that that's who they got. And I think with the third round draft, I think deadlines make deals. I'm thinking they're going to trade straight up with the third round because the Seattle Seahawks don't have a third round, and they're going to go straight up and get Earl Thomas with the third round pick. And then they're going to put and attach some type of conditions to that, meaning that if he make a certain interception amount or if he get a certain sack total or tackle, that they might throw in a conditional fourth or fifth or something like that. So Will Hernandez, they're going to go with a Cortland Sutton or DJ Moore, and then they're going to go with this in the second round. Somehow they're going to trade down and get these guys. I don't know how it's going to work out, but Jerry Jones is the will and deal playmaker that he is out there when he's talking about business. Jerry Jones will sell you the moon. He can sell yellow ice. I know that. Yellow snow, he can sell that stuff to you guys. And I already know this is what he's going to go with. That's how I'm feeling,
Yeah. No, I agree 100% there. I think this move signified, like I said, they are going to run the ball into the ground. They are going to have literal trenches through which Zeke will run next season. And to do that, you have to have a better offensive line than you had last year. Last year's offensive line had a 40% change from the year prior, in which I would say they probably had the best offensive line in football. Last year, I would say maybe top 10, but I really didn't think I think the offensive line was kind of a unexplored really root of kind of what went wrong, especially for the offense last season. And I think to reinforce that, especially this Dez move, really to me signifies, okay, we are going to run the ball into the ground. To me, that signifies you go get Will Hernandez. You go make in the first round your pick, Will Hernandez, so that you, for years to come, have just a dominant offensive line back to 2016, 2014, whichever incarnation you want to try and compare it to. You set that up. Round two, I don't know that you can get Earl Thomas for a 3, man. I would love that.
Straight up, deadline make deals. Deadline make deals. Straight up 3. Who else they gonna use? Put it like this: I can sell it myself. I can say, look here, the guy gonna walk next year anyhow. You're not gonna get anything from him.
True.
Right now, they probably, let's say they got Derwin James with the 17th pick. I think they picking in 17 or 16.
Yeah,
and we can just say right now, hey, you guys got a Derwin James. Let us go ahead and get Earl Thomas from you. We'll pay the $10 million. He's going to be 29, 30. So it's kind of like an older player that you can put out there in the backfield. So why not just say, hey, to yourself and say, hey, we got 10 million right now, movable money.
I think Dallas, I think Dallas absolutely gets him. I don't know if a third will be enough. Well, let me put it this way. I don't know if the Cowboys brass is savvy enough to pull that off for a third. I think if they get him, it would have to be like at least like a third and a fifth or something. Right. Or maybe they do it for a straight up 2. I don't know. If they do it for a 2, then all of the receivers, and we know they have seen a lot of receivers in those 30, approved visits, basically. They had 2 of them up recently. They had Cortland Sutton up. They had DJ Moore at the Star recently. We know Garrett was literally at the SMU Pro Day for Sutton. Mm-hmm. We know that he was also at the Alabama Pro Day for Calvin Ridley. So we know receiver is super high on that list. The question is, you're not going to get one of those guys in the third. Guys fall. I don't know that any of those real frontline receivers that they're wanting are going to fall that far. It could be a situation to me where they have to give up potentially a 2 for Earl Thomas, and then maybe they got 10 draft picks. Could you see in a situation in which they trade back into the second round to grab one of those guys? Whether I don't think DJ Moore, I think he's going to be an early second, but maybe you can get like I don't know if it's a Cortland Sutton, but you can get like a Equinemius St. Brown or someone like that, a Dez build guy.
Or you can just say, hey, I want speed. Let me get DJ Chalk.
Chalk, yes. Game James, super high on him.
Yeah, so it's possible as far as wide receiver, but don't sleep on Noah Brown. He's working with D-Rob. He's the route guru, and he probably can do some amazing things with these guys. I think. Do you have that list right now? Who all he's working with right now? I think it's.
I don't have the list in front of me, but I do have a good
Ryan
grasp on that. So
he's working out with Ryan Switz and
yes. So this was reported last week, just before, I think it was the day we went on last Wednesday. They were saying that Dez hadn't started working with Robinson yet, but he was going to. Robinson was kind of breaking down his game, figuring out where he needed to improve. But he did also comment that he did have Cole Beasley, Ryan Switzer, Noah Brown, Lance Lenoir, and Rico Gathers all there. So a lot of Cowboys are working with this receiver guru, and that's got to be an encouraging thing, man. Like, we all wanted to see what he could do with Dez. Now we won't get to really reap those benefits if it does really make a difference in Dez's game. But when you're talking about slot guys that got to be shifty, guys that got to be crisp with their routes, like Beasley and Switz, man, that is huge. And Rico, a guy trying to get on the field, that's the kind of thing that could really help him. So I like it a lot. I'm encouraged by the fact that not only were they going to work with him, they already were. Dez was like, I don't know when Dez was going to get to it, but I feel like that's another thing for Dez. If he really wanted to make a statement on your willingness to grow and like move forward, you would have put yourself in that situation before. You would have been working with that guy already. I feel like maybe that's just me, speculating just on kind of outward appearance, but that's my thoughts on it.
Well, it's even crazier than that. They stay in the same neighborhood for crying out loud. So,
yeah, that's true.
So it's all about how hungry you ready to eat, man. I want guys with PhDs out there. I'm talking about poor, hungry, and determined to make things happen. And if Rico,
how many of them are that poor?
Right. Well, not really, but you got to have that type of attitude if you want things in life. And granted, I'm talking about he is got Hall of Fame numbers, but I'm talking about it could be even better, And then one can argue and say, well, he got Dak Prescott throwing him the ball, and he had Brandon Whedon and Matt Castle. What's his name? Matt Castle. And,
yes.
Neither here nor there. Yeah. Castle Whedon. Speaking of Rico, I'm talking about if Rico can get his mindset, if he have his PhD mentality, he can be one of the better tight ends in his league. You're talking about when you see Jason Witten when he catches the ball, he falls down immediately, and he
He's
has
got less
zero
than a
yak.
yard of yak. Yeah.
You're right, right. He haven't mastered that, but he can catch any ball that's thrown to him. But it's just the fact that if we can get somebody that can vertically take the ball up the field, and I do know that a lot of people kind of upset about this offensive coordinator and his offensive just product altogether. But if you can get a tight end that can squeeze and run run an inline route up the field and maybe take some pressure off this defense that's trying to load up 9 and 8 man fronts, you're talking about a nice offensive package there.
Hey guys, real quick, I just want to say what's up to James Lyles, who tuned in on the Dallas Prospect Facebook live feed. We appreciate you checking us out. Make sure you give us a like and a share if you like this video. If you're watching over on YouTube, give us a big thumbs up. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in. Go home, Roger. That's the guy's name over here on Facebook.
Yeah, no, Roger, we want you to stay. We like you.
Yeah, so that's all. I just wanted to shout out everybody who's been watching so far tonight. We'd certainly appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to Vaj Lombardi. I see him in the house too as well. And also Okoye. I saw him in the house, man, laying down the information. Matt S., Italian cowboy. Man, you guys are live, man. Hey, I know it's late at night, but you guys rolling, man. That's what I like to hear, and that's what I like to see. You guys out here rolling, getting all this information that we have to spit out. That's cool. What's the next topic?
Man, how about we take a look at the Cowboys, I guess, defensive passing game coordinator in this case. We're going to be talking Chris Richard. Mm-hmm. Do you think that his fingerprints are starting to show up on this team in the sense to signify that he would be the next defensive coordinator? We know Rod Marinelli's getting a little long in the tooth and starting to think about that now.
Yeah, he's a cover 3 guy. But what I'm saying here is that I think that his system can still be interjected into the Cowboys' current system. I think that he's going to do wonders, and I'm talking about wonders with Byron Jones. And this is just not me being lofty on this. I really think that he has the skill set to teach and preach out there for these guys to be able to be explosive to the ball. And he did make a statement. I don't know if you got that in front of you. Yeah.
Yep, I got it right here. Do you want the quote?
Yeah, go ahead and give the quote.
Yeah, so this I saw this first shared. I think it was on the Big Game James page. It could have been Silver and Blue, but I know I got it from the Silver and Blue guys regardless. So Chris Richard talking about Kayvon Frazier. The snippet of the quote basically says, Kayvon Frazier possesses all of the physical abilities to be as effective and powerful as Cam Chancellor. And we're talking about the guy that was the architect of the Legion of Boom. So that's really saying something, I think. What do you think on that?
Yeah, and the key word on there was as effective. So he's not saying he will. So that's still like he got a little reservations on it. My only thing that I had on Kayvon was the fact that him out in space, covering out in space. And when you play in cover 3, you're protected in a sense. When you play in cover 2, hey, you got to figure out some range about yourself. And it's just one of those things where I don't know whether or not he's groomed to be like the next defensive head coach for this, or defensive coach for this team. But I will say this, if his scheme can fit with the players, because I do know they got the skill set. We do know what Jordan Lewis can do. We do know what a Chidobe Awuzie can do. We know what these guys can do out there on the field. And don't sleep on Xavier Woods too as well. And like my guy Vaj Lombardi says that Jeff Heath, if you can only play him 2 to 3 minutes a game, then you have your Hall of Famer right there in Jeff Heath. So
yeah,
it's just one of those things. But I just can't wait to see him pretty much this offseason to see how he's really going to put everybody into the right mix.
Man, I thought you were about to hit that Ric Flair woo on Awuzie there.
Awuzie.
Chidobe Awuzie. Yeah.
Hey, man, that's nice, man. Say that again, bro.
Chidobe Awuzie.
Man, that's what's it, man. And hey, on top of that, he went one of my favorite numbers, man. Awuzie will be wearing number 24. That's all day. You know what I mean? That's my boy, Kobe Bean number 2 as well. Kobe Bryant, for those who don't know. So you guys know I love number 24. That's a whole nother story of a different day, though.
Yeah. So I think this is a good sign for Chris Richard to be taking over potentially as the defensive coordinator moving forward. Rod Marinelli kind of debated retirement this off season at the start of it, and they ended up deciding that he was going to come back. I kind of like the move, though, if we're suggesting that Chris Richard has more say on it. Literally, the first thing he did was move Byron Jones back to cornerback, which, thank you. You're moving a guy to a place. First of all, he wasn't a good safety. He wasn't. I mean, we talked about that all season long. Okoye, I know he's on your YouTube comment saying there. Okoye has a great breakdown. You can find that on his channel. You can also find it on the DallasProspect.com. But he breaks down basically Byron's not a good safety, but as a cover corner, he's legit. And so it makes sense to play a guy to his strength. Now, Dallas, we've talked about this too, how Dallas has messed around with guys' natural positions too much. Tyron Crawford, what we were talking about, Irving a little bit. We were talking about Lael Collins. Now we're talking about Byron Jones. We're moving guys all the time. And that's part of the problem with drafting a guy that is good in several different positions, not necessarily great at one, because you move him around too much. You don't ever let him really set down roots and adjust himself. I think Chris Richard coming in and immediately having the say to move Byron Jones back to corner, not only does it give Byron the best chance to succeed, he's going into the weird situation where they got to figure out what to do with this 50-year option if they're going to pick that up. But not only do they have to deal with that, I think it's a good signifier for getting the best out of him while he's here, or potentially finding something. Maybe it works out great. Maybe because he only has one promising year in that, they don't have to pay, a ridiculous amount of money to keep him. But I really like that it feels like this is a Chris Richard-led vision moving forward and not necessarily Rod Marinelli. Marinelli, you keep doing what you're doing as far as getting everything you can out of that defensive line. Leave everything else to Chris Richard as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, we've got a good comment here real quick. We've got a good comment from Arturo Lugo over here in the comments. He says, do you think that he might have joined the Cowboys with the idea that it could be Garrett's final season?
If they don't make the playoffs, I think it's absolutely Garrett's final season. Even Jerry's love can only go so far, and if Jerry's the only one in his corner, I think that wears
the question was, do you think Chris Richard joined the team with that in mind?
Oh, sorry, I missed that. So we're talking about Chris Richard jumping straight to head coach then, huh?
Right. Like, do you think he came to do you think he agreed to come to Dallas knowing that he could possibly get the head coaching job soon?
Yeah. Hey,
that's possible. It's possible, I guess, but I wouldn't say it was like his primary motivation by any means. I think that it's something that if it happened, and it potentially could happen, that would be worthwhile, and he'd be excited about that, of course. But whether he scouted that out ahead of time, I don't think so. Has Dallas even had a black head coach before? I don't think they have.
No, they didn't, but that would be nice, for a brother to get out.
Right? I just mean like in a literal sense. Like I don't think it's a scouted out thing where he looked at it as, I'm gonna go to Dallas because I can be the head coach potentially after 1 year. I think he saw the chance to move into defensive coordinator and maybe raise his stock. What we always say about the Cowboys? They're always on prime time. They're always getting all the attention. Doesn't matter if they're 4-12 or if they're 12-4. They're going to be a hotly covered topic both in the media and, of course, on primetime football generally. So it gives him a chance to elevate his stock, whether that means here or eventually moving on to head coach somewhere else. So I think that would be all. I would welcome him as potentially head coach, but let's give that a little time.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're going to have to see. Now, one thing we can say this, you can question Rob Marinelli's substitution that he does out there, what he does out there on the defensive backs and in the secondary. But you cannot question Rob Marinelli, the way he can get everybody on their front four to play. And the guy that is going to be like a hidden link for us is this Coney Ely guy. I think that he's going to have him playing back to his Carolina Panthers days if we can figure out a way to as well to draft maybe in the fourth or fifth round. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we can work some things out to get some good draft picks to have a big defensive plug too as well in the middle and in the inside. So I'm still high on this team as far as what we're going to do in the draft because we got Will McClay. And I'm still high on this team for what we can do out there as far as the picks that we made last year. We're going to see everything coming to works. And for those who are just joining into the channel, if you have not heard I have producer G. That's the voice. That's the other voice that you guys hear coming in, reading the comments. That's producer G.
Legit.
Yeah. What's the next? What's the next topic?
All right. So let's see. Let's see. Drawing a blank here on that. I think let's talk a little bit about Jason Garrett calling out. We saw this the other day. So Jason Garrett came out. I guess this is something that was reported from their Week 2 loss last year, where he essentially ripped the Cowboys offense, calling it soft after their loss to Denver. Mm-hmm. Do you kind of, what do you read into that? Do you kind of see a potential where he's kind of sniping at Linehan? And if that's the case, isn't it weird that they bring Linehan back? I mean, we're talking really early in the season, so maybe he didn't hold that opinion by the end, of course. But it's just a weird thing to me because, in a sense, I feel like Linehan is essentially running Garrett's offense for him. So it's weird to call it a soft offense, I think.
I mean, this year should be a stronger offense. And just to raise the question that someone in the chat box about the Leon Lett, I think it's Miss Scouting, Miss Pro Scouting. We do know that Leon Lett is a positioning coach, but we do know for sure that everybody beats off of the drum of Rod Marinelli. He's the one that's going to give everybody a nickname. He's the one that's going to really get into the face of the people out there and teach them the techniques that they need to learn. Now, Leon Lett was a good position. He is a good positioning coach, and he is putting people in the right directions out there on the field. But I just had to let you guys know of that. But outside of that, as far as offense being soft, I can see that. A lot of times in last year when we was on the goal line, money zone, red zone, however you want to call it, we went into a shotgun formation and we tried to pass the ball and look too cute. I really think that this offense really needs to just key into what brought them down there to those areas, and that's running the ball. Stay true to what your identity is and create the identity. Say that, hey, we have and I hate to say this now because I know I've been saying, look, we need to take this out of our vocabulary, that we should have the best offense. We should, remember the word, should have the best offensive line in the National Football League. Should. And when we get down into the money zone, green zone, red zone, we should pound away, and then you can utilize your RPOs too as well. And that's with Dak Prescott. You can see him flourishing in that way. I think that he holds the now quote unquote NFL record of quarterbacks running within their first 1 or 2 years as a quarterback into the end zone. So hopefully we can stay true to our identity and we can stay pounding the ball. Because look back at this right here. I said in my video that the only person that can stop Ezekiel Elliott is the offensive coordinator. And I'm really feeling that if we can get down there to the money zone, just like when we played in the playoff game with the Packers a year ago, we was averaging, I believe, 6.5 yards per carry. It's just that the coaching said, okay, let's throw the ball. That didn't get us down there. Running the ball did. Let's just stay focused on our craft and run the ball, stay focused on our core, and stay true to our identity, and that's smash mouth football.
That and the fact that I mean, as far as them falling behind and starting to become more pass reliant, that and the fact that the coaching staff, namely, and it all goes to the top for me, Garrett didn't have this team ready to come out and compete in 2016 in that playoff game. This team came out flat, especially the defense. The offense wasn't good at either. The whole team came out flat, but the defense gave up 21 points in the blink of an eye. It was 21-3 before you could blink, it seemed like. And when you're down 21-3, you're going to be forced to pass the ball more. So even though Zeke was eating up 6 yards a carry, it's still you couldn't just exclusively grind with him, because while you can keep churning away and you might have drives that put up points, you also have to worry about that defense and making sure that they can stay fresh enough that they can actually hold up against Green Bay. Now, obviously, if you're talking about fresh, I actually just contradicted myself there. If you're running the ball, you're going to keep your defense fresh that way. I more so mean that I think the panic that they had was that they worried about the defense being able to suddenly start stopping Green Bay after giving up 3 straight touchdowns to open the game. And at that point, they started thinking, okay, we got to pass. We got to shoot out and get back into this. We don't have time to grind away and hope we catch them in the fourth quarter or something, which would typically, fourth quarter would typically be your thinking if you're down 21-3 and you're a running dominant team. But I don't know. I have a lot of problems with Jason Garrett, obviously, and I don't like. I'm done with Garrett, man. We've had 8 years of the experiment. I was willing to open my mind a little after 2014. He spoiled most of that in 2015, and the way he kind of coached the backup quarterbacks and everything. He had them so conservative. It was insane. I guess Castle, he let him throw a little bit, but it just was too conservative, and it made no sense to me why they were taking that approach. And I don't know. I think Garrett, he's not a bad coach, but I think, when have you ever looked at Garrett in a game, or especially a playoff game, and thought advantage Cowboys when it comes to coaching? Like, ever?
No, you really don't look at Garrett in that fashion. You never really look at Jason Garrett as a guy to say, "Hey, man, he outcoached us today." It's pretty much is one or two players just making unbelievable plays. You really don't see him crafting up a like, "Oh wow, where did that win come from?" He's not giving us that, and we just never know.
God knows he's not known for adjustments either.
Right, no adjustments. So his philosophy, okay. We know that when it comes down to pretty much September, was the first week of September, whenever the NFL season kickoff.
Yeah, it's first or start of week 2, something like that.
Right. I can guarantee everybody that's in this chat box down below that he's going to wear that blue shirt that you see on the backdrop on one of these cut-ups that we have behind us. He's going to be that same classic guy. He's always going to wear the same material. He's always going to teach with the same philosophy. But one thing I must say, and I'm not just going to throw him all the way under the bus, I'm just going to put him in front of it. But he do at times will go for it, believe it or not. He went for it on 4th and 1. We saw that a lot. He went for it on 4th and inches. So Jason Garrett, he tries, But before we go further, shout out to DP for making the donation to help grow the nation. Salute to you. His question was, "What's up, fellas? What do you guys believe in drafting Hernandez?" I think he just joined in late, but will it be better than the Eagles, than the Rams D line if we go and get through them? If we got to get through them to get the chip. So I guess what he's saying is, altogether, is it better for us to go and draft a defensive line versus an offensive lineman guy? What are your thoughts on that?
I really like defensive linemen. I also like defensive end. I love the idea of Harold Landry or Vita Vea. Either of those guys I would be thrilled with. Obviously, I said earlier, I think Will Hernandez would be a great pickup as well. But I really do like the idea of solidifying the defense. And the thing with like a Harold Landry, it's being reported that the Cowboys are miles apart with DeMarcus Lawrence on a long-term extension. I really think this is kind of shaping up where we could be looking at just the 1 year of DeMarcus Lawrence with this franchise tag. And then after that, he'll be on to somewhere else. And if that's the case, I want to go get a Harold Landry right now so that we can have that replacement already groomed, already with the the green wet behind the ear, whatever catchphrase you use for
greenhorn, huh?
yeah, with the worst of his rookie inexperience behind him, and we can be looking at year 2 where he starts to take a step forward, and then year 3 and all that. Like, it makes sense to me. And, it's not just DeMarcus Lawrence. They have the same situation with David Irving. So It makes a lot of sense to me to take, if you're going to take one of those two, whether it's tackle or defensive end, I think it makes a lot of sense if he's there to get Landry. But
but somebody can argue that we have a better Harold Landry already on our team. He just can't stay off the weed. That's just what it is. Randy Gregory, for those who don't know who I'm talking about. And we got enough defensive ends. I think that the core, like you said, if we had a chance to get a Vita Vea or Will Hernandez, either one of these guys would help elevate the team, and you really probably don't have to really squeeze about the edge that much, because you got guys that's going to develop, like the Tacos and the whatever they decide to ever do with the Irvings and who knows what what's the guy, Charles Tapper is going to do down the line. Yep. So you just never know what these guys are going to do. So my thing is just plug in the middle because you still got to let Malik Collin eat. So this front defensive line, it looks pretty sharp. It's just that we just probably need one good piece to put in the middle and to change the complexion of this team. And think about this too as well from a money piece. Anybody that you draft in the first round, you got 5 years opposed to 4.
Yep.
That's major.
Yeah, that's part of the thing with Dak too, and that impending contract extension, right? The fact that he was a 4th-round pick means you got one less year of controlling him at that rookie deal, and it's going to drive, I think, a lot of people insane. But this is a huge year for Dak. It's year 3. You and I both agree, and I'm sure James and G probably are on the same wavelength as well. Year 3 is really, it's kind of the time where you have no excuses left, right? Like you show what you can do and at least give us a viable sign that you are developing and that you can be that guy. We saw a lot of encouraging stuff year 1, year 2. The first half of the year, his numbers were still okay, but there were a lot of accuracy issues and misreads and things like that. And then by the end, it was total wheels off and all that. So I don't want to completely discard, and I think a lot of people discard what he did year 1. And I don't think that's entirely fair. But that said, if he has year 2, if he has this year anything like year 2, then all that good favor built up in year 1 is meaningless. Regardless, I think Dallas is looking at giving him a nice fat contract where he's probably going to be making like $20 million a year. Jerry has said has basically not said someone's going to. He's basically said that Dak is going to make like really bank on his deal whenever he gets it. So I think Dallas would much rather Dak show something, but even if he only shows a little bit, I think they're going to look to extend him.
Yeah, 20 million a year is kind of like hard for a lot of people to swallow right now. And I do know that I said the truth pill is the hardest thing to swallow. But
I didn't pick the number, just know that.
But the thing is let's look at it from this. Even the Carson Wentz of the world and the Jared Goff, they have larger windows because they are first-round draft picks. They, believe it or not, they have larger windows, basically. But so what the thing is, they call it sophomore slump for a reason. And that's why I always say I'll wait to the 3rd year. A lot of people think that I'm pom-pom cheerleading for Dak Prescott. But guess what, baby? The gloves come off this year. So if he don't show any improvement this year, then the gloves come off. But I do said reports are showing that he lost weight and he's trying to get more elusive in the pocket. He's trying to work on his pre-snap reads. And the only way you can work on your pre-snap reads is pretty much in-game situations. In identifying the defense and things of that nature. So I'm saying that come this year, come hell and high water, Dak Prescott must get better. He must improve. And I think Dak Prescott, he's now playing with a chip on his shoulder to prove everybody wrong about him. So I'm thinking that he's really going to come out guns a-blazing.
Yeah, he has to, right? Especially now with the Dez release. They're like Akoya said, there are no excuses now. Like, if Dez was a distraction to your production, you forcing the ball his way and feeling, and we kind of saw that with Romo early in his career too, right? Like, he had a couple of years with T.O., and then it was like 2009, I guess, what would have been his 3rd full season with T.O. Before that, they moved on from T.O. They cut him. So same kind of deal to me, or maybe it was at the end of 2009. I can't recall exactly, but fairly early in Romo's career with him being a full-time starter, they cut T.O., and it was the same thing. We saw a guy who was demanding the ball and who kind of would have a little bit of prima donna to him, throw a fit. Now, I think Dez, in his cases, I think it's a little different. It's not quite apples to apples with his sideline antics and T.O.'s, but regardless, it's still a distraction, and it's still something that if it's getting in the head of a young quarterback that I got to keep my number 1 receiver happy because – oh, hey, we're up 6-0 against Seattle, but I haven't really gotten Dez the ball yet, and he's starting to throw a fit, then that's a problem. And so if that's off the table now, then fine. That distraction's gone. You supposedly have a bunch of guys that will work in the best interest of the team. If you didn't think T.O. was on that wavelength, or sorry, I just compared him. If you didn't think Dez was on that wavelength, then there you go. It's time to put up or shut up, basically.
Yeah, you got to put up and shut up. So It is what it is. I just can't wait for the gloves come off, man, so we can really look at everything from a different view. What's the next topic on this deal?
Let's see. What do you think? Now, hear me out on this. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think of several more years of Jason Witten in Dallas?
Oh man. Jason Witten, it's time for Jason Witten, man. I think that Jason Witten would be a nice positioning coach out there. I think that Jason Witten would be a guy that can be a health strength coach. He can teach people how to stay healthy and also have good luck because I don't know for the life of me. I do know that he is a leader. He does the corralling and get everybody together. He's very good out there. Like I said before, he will make a good politician. If anybody go back and listen to this interview with what he had to say about Dez's departure, he stood right in the middle of the road. He answered the questions. He knew how to ruminate a little bit. He knew how to guide the actual interviewer into another direction. So I really think that if anything, Jason Witten should be either a head coach somewhere, a positioning coach, or somebody in broadcasting or something like that. I think that, or he can run for governor or mayor or what have you, because he have that charisma, that style, that spontaneity, the ability to just have everybody leaning in towards the end of their seats, seeing them say, okay, this guy's a leader. Okay, yeah, he talked the talk, he walked the walk. But he
Yeah,
can't run. He can't run after he catch the ball. Now, that's one thing he
Jason.
cannot
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Jason
Ripley's, believe it or
Witten's
not. Mm-hmm.
Witten's like 1 yard or 1.4 yards yak last year. I mean, here's the thing about Witten talking about he hopes he can play until 40. I hope to hell he can't because his coaching staff and ownership have shown
Right.
no willingness to take him off the field. He led the league, and I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face because this still drives me insane. Witten led all tight ends in the league last year in number of snaps played. They never let he never lets the other guys on. He wants to be that guy. And as a result, you have him on there every down. You're not going to get a chance to see other guys come up and grow. Like I see a lot of people saying, like in the chat, bringing up Rico Gathers. Rico has a lot of potential. He keeps saying he wants to be the next great tight end in the NFL. Even he said something the other day, and I think it was to TMZ or something like that, where he was talking about. He was asked if he thought Witten was kind of in the way in that regard, or if it was kind of keeping him back. And we know what the deal is with Rico a little bit. He's kind of an interesting cat where he's in his own bubble. He basically agreed, saying. Yeah, probably. I think that's played out over Witten's career, though. We saw Martellus Bennett didn't look like really anything here. We had no problem letting him go. And then he went off and he had a very productive career elsewhere. Eventually got a title.
And he went to the Giants.
Giants, Bears, Patriots. The Packers didn't really work out for him, but still, very, very productive career for him. And
got
he
him
never
a Super Bowl, didn't he? Did he get a Super Bowl? Yeah, got him a Super Bowl
with New England. Yep.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out for him in the long run in Dallas. And I think that as many times as they've drafted a tight end over the years, it's something where Witten jokes. He'll go to the coaching office and ask, why are you wasting more draft picks? They're not going to play over me. And he is the modern day Mr. Cowboy in that sense. And they're not willing to take him off the field, it seems like. And as a result, guys like Rico, guys like Jeff Swaim, who I don't think is a great blocker, but it's still a guy.
Throw Hannah in the mix too as well.
Yeah,
look.
I mean,
let me just
talk
about this right quick, Dan. Do you guys want me to be honest to you guys about Jason Witten, or you guys want the PC? I can be honest, or you want the PC. I'm gonna let the chat box say. You guys want me to be honest, or you want the PC answer? You want the real talk, right? People say they want the real talk. Witten is just as much as a liability as any other player, just like T.O. was out there as being a distraction. And here's why I'm saying this right here. When Witten is out there on the field, he's limiting us so much as an offensive threat. Yes, he have the ability to catch the ball. Yes, he have the ability to somehow mysteriously to separate. But when Witten catches the ball, it's just really not going nowhere. Think about this, and I'm going to just say this. Look at the last year's Philadelphia Eagles, right? They didn't have not one wide receiver to catch over 1,000 yards, but yet Carson Wentz kept threading the needle to the tight end. Your tight end is your best friend. If you don't believe me, ask what Dallas Clark did for Peyton Manning. Ask what Rod Gronkowski and all those guys, the tight ends, the 11 personnel, and all the 12 personnel that they did out there in New England, what they did out there. And look what actually happened with Carson Wentz last year. They didn't have 1,000 receiving yard or receiver, however you say it, but they did have a tight end, Zach Ertz, and the other guy, Trey Burtons or something like that. I think that's his name. They was catching the ball, eating the middle of the field. The mismatches are there. Teams don't have, due to the collective bargain agreement, teams are not as physical as they used to be. Teams are not able to actually play defense and line up and bump like they want to on these tight ends. These tight ends pretty much running slot receiver routes and actually running vertical seams nowadays, and that's what the wave of the new future. But a lot of people fail to realize that Jason Witten been on this team for a long, long time, and we have yet to see any growth in production through him. Even when he had Tony Romo out there, I really think that even Tony Romo gave him the ball, but it wasn't nothing just like, oh, wow, he took over and won this game. I do know that people going to go out there and pull highlights. That's cool. Do that. But how many playoff games we won with him in the lineup? Telling you guys, that's the truth. That's the facts.
Yeah, no, you're on that point for sure. I think Witten's last strong year, I can't remember if it was 2013 or 2014. He had like 117 catch year, and that was like his last super productive year. And ever since then, I've really thought like I think if they used him in more situationally, he could produce better. I think part of it is him being out there all the time. It's tipping the hat as to he's not a guy that can go really vertical a whole lot anymore. He's not a guy that you got to worry about in that regard. If you get a guy like Rico out there, you have a monster vertical threat. So then if you mix in a guy like Witten or you have them out there together, I think you're creating an opportunity for some kind of mismatch or something where you can kind of catch the defense sleeping, right? Because everything with Witten is underneath. It's the Y route. It's all kinds of little stuff where it's like 5-6 yards, turn for the ball, or make some kind of cut in or out depending on where the defensive player is. So I just look at it as it doesn't work as well anymore as it used to. And if he wants to hang around, man, I'm okay with him being around only if it doesn't stunt the development of younger guys. And that's absolutely what it's doing at this point. Like if Rico Gathers isn't on the field this year, you got one guy, I think, to blame, unless it's like a significant injury. And I'm not even talking about like the concussion thing where Rico was out the entire season or whatever. From the concussion, from the Kayvon Frazier hit.
Right.
I think in that case, it should have been something where he came back mid-season, and I think they just kind of decided to stash him essentially off on their injured reserve as opposed to play him or risk someone plucking him off practice.
Yeah. So you're right on that. That's a good conspiracy there. But outside of that, guys,
calling me computer?
Computer conspiracy, computer. And speaking of computer, we have an event I think it's next week, right? Draft time,
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday, you can tell them the information as we begin to close out on this thing. Go ahead and tell them the information on that and where we will be and what.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we're doing a live draft remote again at Mexico Restaurant and Club. Night one of the draft, that's the entire first round of the 2018 NFL draft. We will be doing a live remote throughout the first night. We're going to have literally up all across the restaurant. You're going to have all the TVs flipped onto the draft. We're going to be talking down and breaking down each pick, how it affects the draft board for Dallas. We're going to have Big Game James in again. We're going to have Computer again, our special guest Computer. Law, you're going to be there for at least the first part of it. I think you're actually getting the end of the draft itself, right?
Right. So it's just one of those things where I'm gonna swing in and we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff in the draft of
Yeah.
who we can do a quick breakdown. Hopefully, me and Vach can meet up and do things too as well as Koye. So we're gonna have a lot of things in the mix, guys. So we want to see you guys around that time, around that area,
No doubt.
in supporting. And another thing too as well, just a quick shout out to those that's in the chat box too as well. Todd Jefferson, Justin Quarles, thank you for joining in. Miss Scouting Pro, shout out to you too as well. Camo Cowboy, shout out to you as well. Vosh Lombardi, Okoye, all those who've been following the channel for a long time. Italian Cowboy again, shout out to you. And DDP, anybody you have a shout out for?
Yeah, man, I was just about to get to that. Shout out Otis Hudson Jr., James Lyles. Let's see, I got some more here. Daniel Meza. Don't know. Let's see here. Yeah, got a nice healthy conversation going over here in the chat here. I think some of these guys are the same guys we hit up earlier, but yeah,
No
shout out for being active in the chat. I love the discussion you guys got going for sure. If whichever of you are able to be out for the draft event we're doing, that's awesome. If you want to come out and join us, see us, talk with us about the draft and everything, we'll be set up and we'll have people in for it. We'll have we'll probably bring some of you up, get your thoughts, get some of the fan thoughts on everything with it. So.
Yeah, live reaction. That's what it is. Producer G, you got anybody that you want to give a shout out to, man?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Sieber and Ron Smith over here on our EBSN Online Facebook page, Rod Barnes, Jessica Haggerty, and Adrian Griffin. Appreciate you guys commenting on that video. And then anyone who tuned in on Silver and Blue Nation tonight, we appreciate that as well. Big Game James was out, but he'll be back. Sunday, we'll be back with Silver and Blue Nation at 3:30 Eastern Time. And you guys can give us a like and share on that page as well, and go over to our YouTube channel, subscribe there as well. We'd appreciate it.
Yes, indeed, guys. Please don't forget to like and share this content throughout the Mecca. We need to have more and more people tuning in to us. I do know that you guys may be out and about. If you still missed the show, that's cool. We got a podcast situation going on too as well. That information is in the description box. Feel free to go there, just play it around with it, and you might find out that you like what you hear. And DDP, tell them where they can find you at.
Man, you guys can find me at the DallasProspect.com, your home for Dallas sports and pop culture. We have an eye towards Dallas sports particularly, but we also have other pop culture stuff as well, if that's how you want to roll, if you're not a huge sports fan. You can also find me on Twitter at Dallas Prospect, or YouTube or Facebook at the Dallas Prospect. Also, one more thing I wanted to shout out real quick. If I don't know, we haven't done a whole lot of talking about this, but we're actually doing like a raffle type thing for a chance to go to the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. And it's like basically for $10 you can buy into the raffle, have your name drawn. We're going to be drawing the winner at the live draft remote on Thursday. The only condition is to win, you have to be present. If you're interested, this is like an exclusive primary or exclusive social club at the Star, frequented by Cowboys players, personnel, coaches, all that. All kinds of who's who in terms of Dallas and everything, whether it's the team or the city. So that's an awesome opportunity we're able to give away to a lucky Cowboys fan. If you're interested, basically just go to, I'll post the video on here or the link to the video, but basically you just go to the Dallas Prospect Facebook, kick in $10 for a raffle, enter as many times as you want, and the more times you enter, the better your chance to win. So yeah.
Yes, it's be a private tour with the inside of their private area for the Star. So I'd love to see you guys do that. And with that being said, that's been our time. I really thank you guys for yours. And remember, you're listening to Nothing But the Best. Salute. We're out. Peace.
Every legend was one.